And we are back with another episode, and joining me today, Nathan Chiu. How's it going, man?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. So for starters, for those who don't know, tell us a little bit about yourself and where you come from.
Well, my name's Nathan Chiu. I go by Wayfie. That's my artist name. I'm from Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada, and I am a self-produced artist. So I started off doing music production, and it led to me wanting to write my own songs and sing them and produce them. And I've been doing that since high school, and I'm 23, and I love it, and I'm just kind of embarking on this journey. So I'm excited to see where it goes.
Awesome, love it. And let's take
Yeah.
it back.
Yeah.
How did music all start for you? You started at a pretty young age because I think I read you learned piano first, correct?
Yeah. Yes, that is 100% correct.
And so you learned piano, then I think you taught yourself guitar and bass.
Yeah. So I actually started off doing piano lessons. I think like my brother-in-law. So I have like three older siblings who are like way older than me.
Okay.
And my brother-in-law at the time when I was like 4 or 5 years old, he taught piano lessons. And so my mom was like, teach him piano. And then I think a lot of like people have this experience when they're really young. They just don't have the attention span to be sitting and practicing to like make the progress that matters.
Right.
So I was just finding myself like super uninterested in doing piano because I didn't want to practice. But I always loved, like, I was always fascinated with it. Like, and, many kids are, they go and they just want to like explore. And so I started off doing piano lessons and then kind of cut it out like a year in because I was too young. And then when I was about 7 years old, my parents, they would go to this summer camp every year. Like they had a trailer spot, but the upper part of the camp would do like these programs.
Okay.
And they had a music camp and it was called Junior Music Camp and it was ages 7 to 12. And they did like English style brass band. And that's where I learned percussion. So after piano, it was drums. And then when I was about 13 years old, I started learning the guitar because I wanted to impress girls. And I started a punk rock band and yeah.
That's right. And this punk rock band, you were covering people like Green Day and Blink 182 and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Love it. Love
Yeah.
it. All right, man. So much happening in your life, man. There's was it last year you participated in BC's Canadian Songwriting Challenge?
Yeah. So 2020. Yeah. 2020, I participated in Music BC's Canadian Songwriting Challenge. So Music BC is an organization. Also, maybe for clarification, like whereabouts are you from? Like, are
I'm,
you
I'm from Edmonton, Alberta.
okay? So we're both Canadian. We're
Yeah.
both Canadian. Cool, cool. But yeah, so Music BC, like, there's a different, like, I don't know if they're government, but they're just like organizations that represent like they're like these central hubs for independent artists in each province. And I think there's one in each province, like Alberta Music has one, but Music BC, they organized this thing. And I think prior it wasn't as much of a competition, but the year I happened to take place in it, it was kind of being advertised a little bit more like a competition.
Yeah.
And I had multiple people in Vancouver reach out to me at the time and be like, hey, like, because I produced prior to doing my artist thing a little bit more full time. And they were like, hey, we need someone to be on our team who can produce. Like, can you be on our team? And so I had 4 different teams reach out to me. And being like the horribly people pleaser person I am, I said yes to all of them. And so 4 different teams I submitted. We all had to come up with a song within the theme of Together Alone because it was the first year of the pandemic. So they were trying to be cheeky and say, hey, like hashtag Together Alone, that's your writing topic. And so I was on 4 different teams. We all had a deadline to submit. And luckily, all of them got submitted. And 3 out of 4 of them moved on to the top. I don't know if it was, I think it was the top 15. So they went from all the submissions down to the top 15. And so 3 out of the 4 teams I was a part of made it through to the top 15. And then one of them that I was on eventually ended up placing as a finalist.
That's right. And that was Just a Dream with JESSIA, correct?
Yeah, exactly.
Love it. Love it.
Yes.
Cool, man. All right. For those who have never heard your music before, how would you describe your sound?
Um, That's kind of a interesting question because I feel up to this point I've spent so much time working with other artists that my sound is very like all over the place. So I think for people who, however, are getting into Wayfie, like my own personal songs, I would say expect like the unexpected, or like it's kind of an eclectic mix because I think that's just the nature of who I am. And I think Wayfie is my opportunity to just be myself and show people like the many sides of me, because I think that's just who I am. Like throughout high school, I was like the kind of chameleon kid, like moved around a lot, like always kind of belonged in every friend group, but didn't have like one clique that I belonged to. So I think musically, it's almost was like a parallel to that. And I ended up making music with everybody. So Wayfie, you can expect to hear a little bit of indie, a little bit of folk, a little bit of alternative, a little bit of rock, a little bit of hip hop, a little bit of R&B, a little bit of funk. You know, there's going to be a little bit of everything. And yeah, I don't know. Like I think for people who are fans of popular music, that makes sense. It's hard to say because popular music, I think, is the only genre that kind of dips its toe in every other subgenre. So I don't know.
Right.
I don't know what for people. I don't know what people should expect. Really.
Yeah, that's fair.
Expect the unexpected.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Who are some artists that you're inspired by? Do you have specific ones for songwriting, performing, maybe even producing?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So for me, like some of my biggest inspirations were the ones who kind of like led me to making that first step, which was taking on music production. So some of those artists would be like Pharrell Williams, even Kanye West. And I say that just because he's such a big personality. I have to say even Kanye West. But yeah, Kanye West, Pharrell, Just Blaze. He's another hip hop producer who's worked with a lot of artists I like. Rick Rubin, huge inspiration. And then as far as artists go, like I grew up listening from everything from like Coldplay to like Gustav Holst to like Sufjan Stevens to like Kanye West to like Lupe Fiasco. And so there's like a very broad range of influences. However, yeah, like I'd say one of my favorite albums growing up was Parachutes by Coldplay. And I think it was for more nostalgic purposes, but also for the fact that it was just like one of my introductions to like album oriented music. And yeah, and then like my parents, they had like a lot of a hand in what influenced me. Like my dad used to be a DJ back in the 70s. So like I grew up listening to a lot of funk and a lot of disco and a lot of soul music and a lot of Motown. And then like my mom was super into classical, and she was super into like the Beatles and like Supertramp and Styx and Simon and Garfunkel and ABBA and the Carpenters and Joni Mitchell. So there's all this like there's like this weird dichotomy in my musical influence. So, but like for my personal music, I'd say I take a lot of influence from like a lot of alternative singers growing up. Like yeah, I guess Coldplay is probably a big one.
Man, I love Coldplay. I'm gonna say it. They have probably been one of my favorite concerts I've ever been to.
Really?
I would say so. I don't know what it is. It's just like the high energy, the colors. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know, man. They get me out of my like at every concert. You generally have everyone stand out of their seats anyway.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Like normally I'll just stand and I'll watch, and I might groove a little bit, right? But they had me going.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were probably one of my favorites for sure.
Yeah, I've never actually had the privilege of going to see them live ever, but for me, yeah, it was just the way their songs were able to make me feel, like I felt like I could feel that energy in like my bedroom listening to it on like a CD player, so that says something about the music.
Absolutely. Yep. The next you get a chance, man, I'd highly recommend seeing them live. That's for sure.
I would love to. Love to.
All right. Okay, let's chat about your newest single, Call You Mine. Tell us a little bit about it and how it all came together.
So Call You Mine, it started off, so I was living at home before the pandemic. I guess kind of like into it. So I was actually like So, and I always start stories off this way. I don't know why. I got to start at the beginning. Um, yeah, so I was living at home prior to the pandemic, and really prior to the pandemic, I actually decided to go traveling with my girlfriend, and we wanted to do a whole Europe trip. So us not really having like a full grasp of what the pandemic would end up becoming for the world. We were just like, oh, whatever, let's just go for it and see what happens. And so we planned our whole trip. We were going to go to London and then Paris and then Switzerland and then head out up to Germany and then go down to Croatia at some point. And it was just going to be a whole trip. And then we got to Paris, which was our second stop. And then that was in March. And obviously, you know, all I have to say is March and you get what happened next. So we had to head back to Canada. And then from there, I returned to my parents' place. And at the time, my studio went from my bedroom to their garage because my dad just like keeps all this stuff. And one day I was like, hey, can I just clean out your garage and use it as my studio? And he was like, yeah. And he was a little resistant, but he's like, yeah, you can do that. So there was a whole point, like working with JESSIA, even like a lot of artists I would just work with out of my garage. And Call You Mine was a song that I started writing in my garage. So at the time, I was just really experimenting with different styles and just kind of trying to take those like first steps into songwriting at a popular level, because I hadn't really done that much popular songwriting at that point. I was a lot more into like poetic, like very like esoteric writing. I was very like, I don't know, like I didn't really have any regard to how people could like necessarily receive what it was I was trying to communicate. I just wanted to communicate it in my own artsy, poetic way and not really. So yeah, pop writing was all about like being able to communicate that feeling. And a lot of time that involves like dumbing down the wording. And so Call You Mine was my first attempt at kind of creating like a vibe and like a pop feel. And it started off like as a song in my garage. I laid down the guitar lick and I created a loop and the bass line and the chord progression. And then I wrote from the first verse to up before the chorus. I hadn't written the chorus for a long time. And yeah, Call You Mine was originally called Car Scene. Okay. I just named it Car Scene because it felt like something I could imagine like being in like the movie scene where like you're in the car, or like some sort of a visual. It felt like a car song. So yeah, so I wrote that, named it Car Scene. I had from the first verse to up until the chorus, and the premise was just like those things in a relationship people struggle with, like with spending time with each other and like just being there and not being there. And I find a lot of my songs like play with themes of like that probably resonate with people who have experienced abandonment, which is like, I think a pretty common like theme and across like a lot of music. It's just that like relational, like, oh, I need you, like I need you, you know, like I get my sense of togetherness from being in your presence, you know. So Call You Mine was a lot like the pre-chorus was kind of like the turning point where lyrically it's like, I'm gone, meanwhile you'll be just fine, would you wait for me if I tried? So it's kind of like this story of like this couple and like whatever. So it's fictitious. At the end of the day, it's not like explicitly drawn from like a experience per se. However, like the feelings I was trying to like insert into the foundation of the lyrics was definitely one that I could resonate with for sure. Yeah, like being in a relationship and like, you know, spending time apart from your significant other, and that just kind of creating this like sense of like, oh, I want to be with you more, you know. So and then yeah, the chorus came a lot later, but however it kind of rounded out the whole message of the song, was that it was like about second chances. It was like, if I spend this time away from you and like I'm willing to make it right, like will you give me a second chance, you know? It's like, will you let me back into your life, you know?
Great. Awesome. And this is available on all platforms.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yes.
What's your favorite thing about collaborating with other artists?
Oh, wow. So collaborating with other artists has been, I'd say, like the bulk of what I've done in music, because I didn't really start like giving myself permission to be writing my own songs and like dedicating all my energy to doing my own music for quite a while, because I felt like, I don't know, I looked up to artists like Pharrell and Kanye West, and like I just had seen this like mentality going into things where like they had to kind of prove themselves to others and like prove that they could do the work and help execute the songs from like a background position.
Right.
So collaborating with others was really like everything to me. It was like, how can I be the best collaborator? And yeah, so my favorite part about collaborating is just the fact that I get to like be let into someone else's reality, and I get to help like tell a story like using someone else's experiences and shared emotions. And it's not just me sitting in a room thinking like, how do I feel, you know, and having to kind of wrestle with this weird dichotomy of like, oh, why would people care about how I feel, you know? But like being in a room with another person and having the opportunity to connect over shared experiences or shared emotions or shared feelings creates this really unique opportunity to create like a universe and like a story, essentially like a world within a song that you could not necessarily create with your own thoughts. And like, maybe you could, but I feel like there's this thing that holds people back. I don't know. Like, I don't think the average person spends a lot of time like in that place in their mind, like with that freedom to really build those different images and express them at the end of the day, you know? So I don't know, being led into other people's minds and being led into other people's thoughts and experiences is probably the best part about it.
Yeah, very cool. I like that. I like that answer, actually. Good. Is there been what is the weirdest, most awkward way you've ever come up with a song? Has there been like a awkward moment collaborating with someone? Is there even for yourself coming up with a song?
Awkward.
Weird,
Well,
awkward, where you're like, that's it. That's a song. This is a weird moment, but that's it.
so I've collaborated a bit with a couple artists that I feel like maybe are in the more like developing stages of their career, in the sense that like maybe they're learning a lot of those first lessons when it comes to being able to sit down and construct a narrative and like kind of do the whole brain spilling and like get all your thoughts on the page kind of thing. And one of the things that I find is always like fun is like whenever the process gets referenced to in the song itself. So like, and I think a lot of writers kind of like this. It's like a writer thing. Like whenever someone is able to reference the struggle of getting their thoughts onto the page, I find is always kind of a funny thing. And it like whenever it makes the final cut, it's always like a little bit of a wink to other writers. So yeah, anytime I think. So yeah, here's a great example for my own song. I Just Want to See My Friends. So the last song I released before Call You Mine is called I Just Want to See My Friends. And the first part of the song, I was essentially me capturing the moment of trying to write the song in the room. So it's 4 walls and 4 calls later, I'm a mess, 4 o'clock and I still need to get dressed, blank page and I'm trying to be on my phone less. So even just up to that point in the first verse, it's like that entire verse is just a capturement of like me sitting in my bedroom being like, what am I doing right now? Like, what am I trying to write, you know?
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. For your single, do we have plans for a music video, lyric video?
Yeah. So we're actually working with a new director. So I worked with a friend, Jevin, shout out to Jevin. And he did our previous 2 music videos, the one for Fairy Tale and I Just Want to See My Friends. And he absolutely knocked it out of the park. So good. It was my first experience ever doing a music video ever.
Yeah.
And he did such a phenomenal job. Like just blew me away. And it just got me so excited because I've always been like a huge fan of movies and TV shows. So like being able to finally like involve myself in the visual aspect of storytelling was just such a thrill, because I've always like spent hours and days and just time alone to myself, just like having these crazy imaginative thoughts about like making movies and TV shows. And I'm sure it's something that's going to be a part of my future in some way or another. However, doing a music video was like my first chance of actually being able to not only just be involved in the act of the visual storytelling, but like be the foundation of the visual storytelling. And it was like my story. And I was like, this is so cool. So yeah, to answer your question more directly now, I guess, yeah, Call You Mine, we are planning on working with a different director. She's really awesome. And I'm excited for more information to be released about that. However, we're still in the kind of like pre-production process. We're planning to shoot at the end of this month. And yeah, I'm excited to see how it turns out. I think the concept is really cool, and I think it's gonna get knocked out of the park.
Perfect. Love it.
Yeah.
Okay. What would you say has been the best advice you've been given in your career that you use up to this point?
Um, that's a great question.
Yeah, that you still follow or whatever.
Well, there's so much good advice that I've had to like that I've had to like apply and learn from. And but yeah, I remember one piece of advice, and I'll just share this because the first thing that came to my head. One of my mentors, he said like most people ask the wrong questions, you know, like most people spend too much time asking the wrong questions. And I think asking the right questions has really been a piece of advice that just helped me, because I think from a baseline point, like when people are like searching for something and they're not sure what they want, I think uncertainty is kind of like the biggest contributor to like not asking the right questions, because when you're uncertain about what it is you want to know, it's like, what do you ask, you know? So for me, that was for a long time, it was, what do I want to do with my life? You know, it was like the big questions. It's like, what am I going to do with my future? And and I think once I started to narrow it down to music, it was a matter of like, okay, now what do I want to do in music? Like, do I want to be a music producer? And for the longest time, that's what I thought I wanted to do. I was like, okay, I'm good at this. I have all the like the prerequisites for being a music producer. I am a multi-instrumentalist. I have a great ear for melody. I understand chord structure. I'm a great people person. Like these things just seem to be pointing me towards being a music producer. So yeah, asking the right questions, I think, is probably the best question, the best wisdom I've ever been given, because asking the right questions has, at the end of the day, just kind of like narrowed down what it is I actually want. And I think when people are able to sit by themselves and really ask them those hard questions, and like just sit down with a blank piece of paper and like ask yourself all these questions, like once you have the right questions, it's like, I don't know, I feel like there's just like a sense of clarity that comes from that.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
All right, man. What's next for you? Do we have shows lined up?
So yeah, I think for shows and performances, it's kind of weird right now because
Yes.
yeah, the pandemic has proven to be a huge issue with live performances and live events in general. Um, so we're kind of waiting on that a little bit. We have like a little bit more long-term projections for tour and like for doing shows and stuff in the future.
Okay.
But at the current moment, like we don't necessarily have anything lined up or planned, for the sake of uncertainty and for the sake of, yeah, like we haven't necessarily seen the opportunity present itself yet. However, I'm excited to start doing like a lot more local shows and sort of just get my feet wet, because this is really new to me. Like I don't come from a performance background, so for me it's something that's really new, and yeah, I'm excited to start like getting better at it, because I think as an artist, that's just something that naturally comes with being an artist, is like presenting your art to people in like in this kind of a situation, you know, where I get to sit and or stand and, you know, talk to people and create that connection, and yeah, give people an experience along with the song's experience. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
Perfect, man. All right. Last thing, for those who don't know, tell us where they can find you on social media.
I'm mainly on Instagram these days. I have TikTok, but I don't really do much on TikTok. But yeah, Instagram, it's Wayfie. So at symbol ITSWAYFIE. It's Wayfie on Instagram. And I believe it's the same for Facebook. But again, like Instagram is the main social media platform I use. So if anyone's listening and they're like, this guy seems cool, I want to know more, then it's Wayfie on Instagram.
For sure. I'm totally the same. I think I just post on the other platforms and I
Yeah.
just leave it.
Yeah.
And then on Instagram, I'm like, hey, what's going on? Right? So,
Yeah.
oh yeah, Instagram's the spot. But all right,
Yeah.
cool. All right, guys, go grab his new single, Call You Mine. And Nathan, thanks so much, man.
Thank you, Cody. I really appreciate you having me on here and yeah, asking me all these great questions. Like I haven't had a chance to be asked all these questions, so I really appreciate it.
Yeah, it was great meeting you. And I mean, you're in Vancouver, you said?
Yeah. Yep.
Cool, man. Well, next time I'm down, I go there here and there.
Yeah.
Let's hang out.
Why not?
In person, right?
Yeah, let's do it. I'm always open.
Yeah. So cool, man. Well, keep in touch and we'll talk soon.
Awesome.
All right.
Thank you so much, man.
All right. See ya.